The election of 1972 is Nixon's reelection campaign. He calls it the new federalism, meaning that he's going to bring powers that the federal government assumed from the states and give it back. Reagan is really going to make this famous, all right, but he's going to talk about representing the silent majority. You know who the silent majority is? Basically, those not those hippie freaks that are protesting. Good, solid Americans. They're not protesting. They're not causing trouble, right? But think about what's going on here. Between 1901 and 1969, you could pretty confidently say the United States is on a liberal progressive trajectory, right? You know, we talk about things like the New Deal, the Fair Deal, the Square Deal, the New Frontier, the Great Society, right? All of this more of a liberal progressive trajectory, right? But in 1969, it turns around. It's going to turn around with Nixon, right? And it's going to go through Reagan, and it's going to go through George W. Bush. So the war in Vietnam actually turns the whole direction of the country around from a liberal to a conservative direction. And it's going to make us what we are today in terms of direction where we're going. Right now, how long is that going to last? I don't know. I mean, you throw in Barack Obama into this and see what you get. Nevertheless, in 1972, Nixon is running for re-election, and you know who's going to win. The country is prosperous. The war looks like it's going to be over, and there's good foreign policies going about. I mean, if he wasn't going to win, the Democrats were going to make sure that he was going to win, right? If you ever want to learn about how to lose an election, study 1972, particularly the Democratic ticket. For one thing, they nominated a guy named George McGovern, and he had a PhD in American history. And I mean, you already know you're screwed there, right? So right off the bat, you're in deep trouble. And then, of course, he's going to be tagged as a radical. The Democrats are going to hold their convention, and they're going to make their nomination at 3 in the morning. All right, they're going to finally get it done. All right, nobody's watching TV at 3 in the morning. Right, at this time. Remember, there's only a few channels that people could watch, not like today. So they probably wanted to make their nomination in prime time. 3 in the morning. Where's that prime time? Guam. I mean, come on. And then, of course, they nominate a vice president candidate who. Afterwards, they learn that the guy he saw a psychiatrist. So you have an historian and a nut job. Gee, that's going to be a great combination. And despite the fact that McGovern said he was 1,000% behind his VP candidate, which already indicates something's wrong if you're 1,000%, right? And nevertheless, he asked his vice presidential running mate to withdraw from the ticket 3 days later. It's just silly on the face of it. And just look at the election in 1972 and look at the electoral map. Remember 1936? Remember how every state went blue except for New Hampshire and Maine, right? Or was it, no, Maine and Vermont, right? Look at 1972. It's almost the exact opposite. In fact, let me get this up for a second. Where is it? Come on. Here we go. Bam. Okay. So Nixon wins everything except for Massachusetts and one vote from Virginia. That's it. I mean, the non-Nixon vote, the electoral vote, 14 for McGovern and 1 for a guy named Hosmer. We're not even going to mention them. Okay. But nevertheless, Nixon carries every single state except for Massachusetts, pretty much. So, you look at the map and you're just going to see red. And thank goodness you're not a bull, otherwise you'd charge your screen, okay? But nevertheless, it's an overwhelming victory. But with Nixon, there's always a but. And that but or that asterisk is going to be Watergate, right? And we're going to have to talk about that in the next video. But nevertheless, Nixon is overwhelmingly reelected in 1972.